Hey everybody, welcome to another World of Tanks replay, and this one is by Serb. Now, he's actually platooned up with me and also Too Fast. Unfortunately for me, this was not a good match, but for Serb it was a fantastic match. Two ARL 44s and a KV-85. Pretty decent heavy tanks all round. Although Too Fast was still rolling with the 76mm gun on her ARL, so had one with the 105, one with the 76, and then me and my KV-85 rolling the 100mm gun. The objectively correct gun for the KV-85, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The 122 on it is now a piece of garbage, although arguably it always was. We all decide to head east to begin with, which is pretty standard for this map. You can see me drifting towards the right, of course, as always driving straight towards the enemy like an idiot. Meanwhile, Serb plays it much more reservedly and stays further back. Naturally, I'm the first one to run into something, and happened to find the T-43 with my face. Able to get a decent hit into it, while Serb takes hits from the JP4. Now, this is where I started to have problems. I was caught out in the open, had no real support. As you can see, Serb and Too Fast have worries of their own, and the rest of the team aren't really paying attention. I get some help there from our Artie, and the JP4 goes down. At this point, I was kind of pissed off at myself for losing those hit points. There was no real need to, but it wasn't going too badly yet. Serb once again hanging back, which is pretty good idea in the ARL 44. It is a pretty strong tank, and its armor is actually surprisingly good for a French heavy, but you don't want to be taking hits if you don't have to in the ARL. Enemy Easy 8 cuts through the middle. Unfortunately for Serb, his shot misses. Easy 8 moves right as he goes to take it, and this is where I got fucked over. I got caught in front of a T-29 and was having trouble extricating myself from this situation. The enemy Artie blows the shit out of my tank. Probably focusing me because of XVM. Now, my XVM config doesn't show who else is using XVM, but Too Fast's does. And so Too Fast was giving advice on who was using XVM to pick their targets and who wasn't. And more often than not, when I got hit by an artillery shell that was very obviously directed at me while there were other targets around, the person was, funnily enough, using XVM. So to that end, I'd actually be happy to see XVM's stat removed. I'd actually be happy to see stats removed from the game altogether. I think it would improve the game. It would certainly improve my ability to enjoy it. You know, even if they keep the bonuses in XP and credits for winning, if they just remove public stats, that would probably be just fine, because it would result in a lot less bad blood in the community and a lot less people prioritizing targets based on their skill. Of course, the competitive nature of World of Tanks is pretty much what the game is built around, so I know it's never going to happen, but we can always dream. Unfortunately for me, competition is in my blood. I come from a very competitive family, especially through Dad's side, and so I can't help but want to win things, and I get very irritated when my team don't show the same spirit. Serb and Too Fast start heading back to base, seeing that the enemy have pretty much overrun the west side. With only a KV-1 still up in the east, there's not really much reason to stick around and fight it. And so Serb goes for shots on this Easy 8. And bounces. Oh, auto aim. Friendly Fury manages to clean it up, but he's now in a very compromising position, shall we say. He's pretty much held over a barrel with the War Crime, the Tiger P and the Tog all coming to shit on him. KV-1 is of course still somewhere in the enemy base, but for now Serb and Too Fast don't have to worry about that, and the friendly T-34 should manage to spot it if it comes after them. The enemy War Crime Panther drives out in the open. It does spot Serb, but he gets a shot into it. Unfortunately, his shot bounces off the back of it, no less. And it's able to get away. KV-1 spotted, it begins pushing on the T-34, but it's still not really a threat to Serb or Too Fast, and so Serb focuses his attention to the friendly base. Now this position that my platoon mates are in is a very good position to defend your base from, because you're hull down, you've got plenty of space to move, and if you do want to move around you can do so without being seen because of the hill. So it's a really fantastic firing position, and it's why the east side of the map is so important. If you lose the west, then you can mount a very convincing defense of your base from the east, whereas if you lose the east, it's quite difficult to defend your base from the west. Now, Serb is of course firing gold rounds out of the 105. There's two reasons for that. The first is obvious, it's a gold round increased pen. There's only a handful of tanks in the game where that's not the case, the SU-100Y being one of them. But the thing that most people don't realise about the 105mm on the ARL 44 is that its APCR rounds actually do more damage than the AP rounds. This is very rare. The 3601's Cornish used to do the same thing, but that was changed quite a while ago when 3601 and the Cornish were both nerfed into the ground, rightly so. But the ARL has never had its altered, and so it still does 30 more alpha, a difference of 300 alpha for the AP rounds and 330 for the APCR. So in the ARL, it's actually a good idea to shoot gold from the 105 no matter what you're facing. The Tiger P decides he's going to push and gets punished for it. Meanwhile, the KV-1 is starting to move up. Too Fast deals with that, while Serb worries about the Tiger P and the War Crime. He's able to coax the Tiger P into missing a shot quite badly there, and gets a quick reaction shot in. Tog's lit at full health, of course. And the KV-1 crests the hill directly into a 105mm shell. Too Fast begins heading back as the enemy War Crime Panther is spotted. Very low on health, unfortunately Serb low rolls, and the War Crime is left with a handful of hit points. Now the position he's in is pretty good as well because he's hull down behind the rails. However, he's going to have to probably crest them quite high to get a shot off. Being a Panther, he doesn't have the best gun depression. And that should give Serb a chance to kill him. And of course, the Tog and Panther both have much lower alpha than Serb. And there goes the Panther. Now at this point it's just the Tog to deal with. The Tog's 17-pounder does about 150 alpha per shot, but both Serb and Too Fast are quite low on health, and so they can both be killed in 2 shots, assuming the Tog doesn't have some disastrous low rolls. What this means is they're going to have to play a bit carefully to try and finish the Tog off. It does still have 1400 hit points, and so Serb waits for Too Fast to begin moving into position to try and bait the Tog's attention away from himself. There's plenty of time, so no need to rush. Serb waits patiently for Too Fast to get into place. The ARL is mobile enough, but it's not exactly a speed demon. And then with Too Fast up on the ridge, getting the Tog's attention, Serb is able to roll out and get a shot in. The Tog isn't quite sure who to point his gun at, and in fact his indecisiveness costs him the game. He could have been firing his gun there, instead he was just waving his turret around helplessly, and is still doing it. He finally picks a target, and begins aiming towards Serb, but it's too late. And down he goes. Top Gun and a 4k damage game in the ARL 44 in a tier 7 match. This thing is surprisingly unloved for such a good heavy. It can really carry like a demon in a tier 6, 7, even 8 match, and it's just a good all-round heavy tank. It's, you know, fun enough to play, it's got decent enough armor for what it is, the gun is fantastic, the 90mm gun's okay as well, but I prefer the 105. There's not much wrong with this tank, it doesn't get the attention it deserves, I think, and perhaps that's a good thing, because it means it will probably never ever be nerfed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, a good demonstration of using terrain to your advantage and baiting the enemy into a killing zone. As ever, I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.